website? How do we add the add-on onto our Google Slides? How do we create some of those slides? And then what does it look like when we present? And my wife has graciously allowed me to use her computer so we can see what a student looks like. With that being said, we're not going to wait for everyone to sign up into Pear Deck, so this will be recorded so you can watch it later. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So without further ado, here's our Pear Deck slide. Let me sign out first. Sign out. Present. All right, so let me go to Google. And just to get to Pear Deck, I always just type in Pear Deck into the search box and Pear Deck for Google Slides. And like with anything we do when we go in, teacher login, and then just log in with Google. One thing with Pear Deck is that oftentimes what it'll ask you to make agreements for Pear Deck to have access to your Google Drive. It's super secure, so I always click allow, and then everything that I do is integrated with both Google Classroom, my Google Drive, and anything else that I need. So this is the first step, is just logging in. I already have an account with Pear Deck. There might be an extra step or two if you're logging in for the first time. We do have premium access, and I think it just automatically syncs with what we're doing. So you'll automatically have access to the premium stuff on Pear Deck through the district. So that's the first step, is just logging into Pear Deck. Super friendly pairs. I picked a basic. Let me get rid of this. I picked a basic Google slide with one slide on here. We're picnic themed today. I figured it was a good theme because we can't go outside, and my wife says I look like Yogi Bear without having to get a haircut. So we are picnic themed for this Tech Slam. And so the next step is creating your Google Slides. Now, you could do this with an already existing slideshow that you have. So if you have a great one for a unit in math, or you have a great one for a literacy skill, and you have that, you can add things to it. Or if you want to start from scratch, that's totally okay too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to add-ons. I already have the Pear Deck add-on, but I'm going to show you where to go to get that Pear Deck add-on. Get add-ons. And it'll pop up right there. I did it with my wife's computer yesterday, and she didn't have Pear Deck, and it was the same thing. It was the second one after Lucidchart, pops right up. You can always search it if it doesn't pop up, and you'll click that, and then you can install that onto your device. It's just the fastest and easiest way to work with Pear Deck. Now, for me, I already have it, so I'm going to go to my add-ons, Pear Deck, and I'm going to open up my Pear Deck add-ons. And this will always come up on the side right here. So I'm going to start with our template library and kind of go back a little bit and talk about some other things with this interface. But first, let's start with the template library. So we have a lot of different options. We'll walk through a little bit through all of them just to see what we have. But we have a beginning of the lesson, during the lesson, end of the lesson. We have critical thinking, social emotional learning. I've done this a lot with morning meetings, where there's some really cool functions in there. They have example questions. They have stuff specifically for K2, which we'll look at in a bit, and specifically for math, science, social studies, world languages, and ELA. So I want to show you a little bit of everything in here, and what it looks like to add this stuff on. So in the beginning of the lesson, I'm just going to select this one. Maybe I want to ask my students a question. And it automatically creates that slide for me. And so To edit the slide, maybe I want to know, what did you remember from chapter 2 of whatever book we were reading? And that will automatically update the slide. So that's the cool thing about Pear Deck is there's a lot of pre-made great stuff, but we could be responsive to what our students need, to what we need, and make those changes so that it fits with our needs and our learning targets as well. Let's pick a during lesson. Maybe I want to ask a question where we have to drag something. And the great thing about this is that in this format, I'm showing you just a series of Pear Deck slides. But when you're using this, in between these interactive slides, we would have text, we would have maybe links to a YouTube video to watch. I almost look at it as an interactive slideshow in a hyperdoc kind of smashed into one, so that we're interacting with text, we're interacting with ideas, and then we're able to do some of these as well. And anything here can be edited as well. Some end of the lesson. I'm going to click one where students can draw or type. When I use this in the classroom, a lot of my students just like to be able to draw their ideas. It's just a fun way and a different way to express kind of some of our thinking. So draw 2 types of things we learned today. I've used this before in English language arts lesson, considering viewpoints. And again, everything on here could be edited to whatever we need it to be. The visuals will stay the same, but we can always change up a little bit about the content. Some social emotional learning. I know we have our learning targets and our choice boards, bucket fillers, stress check. What do you think? I've used this active listening one before, which was pretty cool, where students are able to engage with maybe non-content but learner qualities, things that are of equal importance to what we're doing. So, oh, I got that this morning too. I just had to refresh my computer. That's one thing that I found with the social emotional learning. For whatever reason on my device, if that ever popped up and I refreshed my computer just like that and went back in to add it on again, it would be able to add on really quickly. For whatever reason, when I used it this morning, that was the same thing as well. There we go. I like the in the littles section. We have filling missing letters, circling the items. So it's not just older grade content, although it's great for upper grades as well, any classroom. But there's some stuff specifically geared to our lower primary. In math, there's coordinate points, there's geometry. So a lot of the things that target with our learning targets. And then we have that for social studies and world languages and ELA. One thing that I did want to show you as well is if I just hit a blank slide at the bottom here, and let's say I didn't want an interactive slide. I just wanted to ask a text question. You could add some of these questions that aren't these interactive, these pre-made slides. So let's say I want an ABC text question. I'm going to select that. Pear Deck will add that choice for me. And let's say I just want to type in my own question. How are you doing today? So if I wanted just to do a series of those, we have multiple choice, draggables, draw. If you don't want to use some of those pre-made ones, you could totally do this as well, and it would be just as good. So let's say we're done with our presentation. We've added all the things we want. We've added the slides that we need to. Now it's time to present. So I'm going to go back to our Pear Deck. And if you're logged out, you can log back in. And I am going to go down here. And the nice thing about Pear Deck, it's integrated with my Google Drive. So I have all of my stuff here, a couple of untitled Pear Decks, something for ACES. We presented it for Frost. And here's my Tech Slam. So I'm just going to click it. All right. And I'm going to do start student paste, especially what I found in talking to other teachers during distance learning. Student paste has just been the best thing to use with this. When you're in the classroom, you have the option of turning off student paste and doing it together as a whole group, which is absolutely fine. But knowing that some of our students are logging in at different times and engaged in different times, student paste has just been the best choice for this. So I'm going to click student paste. And this is welcome to the teacher dashboard. So the cool thing about what Pear Deck has kind of improved upon is in the past, it's been a little bit more difficult or challenging to find where the teacher dashboard is. Now when we're logging in, we can automatically get it. And what the teacher dashboard is you're going to be seeing what all of your students are doing. There's a projector mode where you would just see what the students are doing. But for distance learning, this teacher dashboard, this automatic teacher dashboard makes things a lot easier because we already know what our slides look like. We want to know what our students are doing. So they suggest, if you're in the classroom, you could use another device to access the teacher dashboard if you don't want your students seeing what each other are doing. So I'm going to click got it. Again, with the Google integration, we can copy the link, put it into our Google Classroom. We could share it to our classroom and click on there. Now with mine up in the upper left-hand corner here, they still give us the code. So if students don't, for whatever reason, have access to their Google Classroom or couldn't have gotten the link, you can always share with them the code. And if they go to joinpd.com, they can enter that code in there as well. So on my wife's computer, I'm going to type that in. And in the upper right-hand corner, we can see how many students are logged in to our Pear account. All right. Now on our left-hand side, as I'm logging my wife into Pear Deck, we have all of our slides on here. So all the ones that we've added. If you have regular text slides in there as well, those will pop up. So that's the thing about Teacher Dashboard. You don't need to have the projector mode on because you'll still be able to see all the slides that you're going to be having.
Charlie, whenever you move off camera, we can't hear you, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So on here, and for whatever, of course, the one time I've tested it twice today, and the one time it's not working is when I need it to work. But anyways, if you click on a particular slide, all of your students will pop up with what A, they've done, and B, what with their name on there. So if you want to see what Peter or Paul or Mary is doing, you'll be able to see that their name will pop up right underneath them in there as well. So I thought it would be cool to show you what it looks like if a student did it, but you know what? It's not working, and that's okay. That's the beautiful thing of technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we move on. And so this is where you'll be able to click on seeing all of your students' information. Now, if, let's say, I'm logged on, I post this at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I have to go jump into my team meeting at 9:45, and I still want this up and running, what I would do is I would click on end, and I would click leave and allow students to keep working. So I'm going to click on that, and I can go about with whatever I need to, knowing that some of our students are on right away at 9 o'clock. Some might be joining us later in the day. Some might be joining us in the evening. And then I can always go back in when I'm log out, log back in on my main page to sessions. Of course, there's a connection issue. There we go. And right there. Today, 10/16 is when I started it. I'm going to go back to my teacher dashboard. And that would take me right back into my slides where I left off. So that's kind of the beauty of student pace, is that, you know, it's student pace, but it's also teacher pace. You don't have to be tied to this one session. You don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, if I sign out and sign back in, what's going to happen with my students? They'll still be able to interact with it throughout the day. The code stays the same. All of their work stays saved on there. But then you can kind of set that time limit for the needs of your students that you know might be working at night or might be working in the early part of the day as well. So when I'm all done, I'm going to end my session. Yes, I'm sure. I'm going to name it, and I'm going to name it maybe, I'll name it April 21st Pear Deck. I'm going to save and end the session.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah.
When you're finished with this little part you're showing, can we pause and take a couple questions? There was a couple in the chat.
Sure, absolutely. And I just wanted to show you guys, before I get back into the chat, the link to the work they give you. So if you did want to push it out to the rest of your class to see what everyone did, you can do that as well. So let me return to the chat. All right. And I am back in. All right, let me go to some of the questions.
And while Charlie's looking at the questions, I just wanted to let everybody know that I dropped the link to the CPDU sign-in form into the chat. So if you want CPDU credit, you can go ahead and grab that link and fill it out.
So do students have to be live and on the slideshow at the same time? Absolutely not. With student pace, they can do it whenever they want to. If it wasn't student pace, we would all have to be on at the same time, and I would end the session whenever that session ended. But that's the beauty of student paced, is that it you can do it whenever. Does it have students all make a copy of it to submit it? So students are getting their own copies of it when I test it out on my wife's computer. And when I've done it in the classroom as well, they only see their work and they're only working on their slides. So they won't see everyone's work unless you push out that final piece, which was everyone's work to them. Do you need to use their slides and modify, or can you create your own slides and make them interactive? You can do both. You could, if you have your own slides that you want to add things to, you can absolutely do that. Or if you want to make it from scratch, you can as well. So Jen, your question, so do students need to go to Join PD and enter the code it's seen at the top of the slideshow in order to respond? No. So when I launched it, there's an option to put it on your Google Classroom, and it would automatically put that link on the stream to get them in. If for whatever reason they couldn't access Google Classroom for whatever reason, there is always the option that you could just hand type in the code to join PD, but it wouldn't be my first option. I just put it right on my Google Classroom to get them right in there. All right. We have another question. Oh, they do not need to work on your Google slide. They'd just be working through the Pear Deck interface for it. So there's another question. If not sure I missed this, but can you provide feedback to them in Pear Deck? That's a great question. The feedback I've always given is afterwards to students on that. I don't know if there's an option for live feedback within Pear Deck. But if it is a live session going on through the whole day and you notice the student's work, you can absolutely then contact them and have a dialogue about what that's going to look like. I think that was all of our, does anyone else have any other questions?
You know, Charlie, can I jump in really quick?
Totally.
We did have a couple questions that people had about using Pear Deck with Cami. And so somebody was wondering if instead of having like a Cami assignment, just go through Google Classroom and then students get the Cami assignment from Classroom and then submit it through Classroom. The question was, what if we want students to get a link from us via Pear Deck and then do a Cami annotation and then somehow submit it back to us? And so Charlie and I talked about it, and we think that the best way would be if you actually just drop a link into your Pear Deck, so slide. So you might say, click this link, and it's a link to a PDF that's in your Google Drive that you've shared with your students. And then because students have the Cami extension pushed out to them, and as long as they've taken the step of going to camiapp.com and just creating a free account on Google, they'll be linked. And so when they click on your link in Pear Deck, they will have, the PDF will open in preview mode, and then they'll click open with Cami. So they'll choose Cami, and then that'll open Cami. And then they'll be able to annotate your PDF, mark it up. And then what they should do is click the share button, and then they just will be able to copy that, the length of their annotated PDF, and they can drop it into that Pear Deck, if that makes sense. So in Pear Deck, yeah, you can type, students can type in, students can add links. So they would just drop the link to the Cami they just presented, or they just annotated back into your Pear Deck. So that's kind of the flow we figured out. So if anybody has any questions, just you can ask me later and we can talk about it.
Jen asked another question. This is one actually I didn't cover, so thanks for asking, Jen. If you're doing the Pear Deck, can you project the responses in real time with staff? Absolutely. So Alicia, if you don't mind, can I switch it over back to project so I could show?
Yes.
So to anyone wondering, if you, in the lower right-hand corner, there's a present now function if no one's ever done it. I'm going to click present now and click my screen. I'm going to select it and share. So my screen should be presenting now. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to start another presentation. Start student paste. And I've used this in the classroom too when I wanted, maybe a quick whip answer. Got it. Okay. So let's say I have a question. I put this one on there. If I click show responses, obviously for this, I'm waiting for responses, but it would show up almost like a almost like a grid on here of everyone's answers. So you'd be able to see what everyone has posted. And then when I click hide responses, it would hide it again. So that show responses would let everyone who's a student see what you're seeing as the administrator for the slideshow. And then just like before, end it. And that would be how we would show the responses.
Are there any other questions, or does anybody want to share how they've used Pear Deck, or anything that might be helpful for other people? Or questions about how to use it? Feel free to unmute yourself too and just jump in and ask or share.
And if anyone does think of anything afterwards, feel free to send me an email or a hangout. I'm more than happy to help you. I'll be on the phone, walk you through anything that you need to do with this. It's a lot of fun and students love it.
Charlie, this is Kelly Burbon.
Hey, Kelly.
I have a question. Can you link a Pear Deck slide into just a regular slideshow?
So the slideshow itself would be uploaded to Pear Deck. But if you wanted to, so you can add slides to it. I guess you could link it and it would take you to another slideshow if you wanted to. I've never tried it, but I think you can.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'm working on. Thanks.
No problem.
Anything else? Any last things, Charlie, or ideas?
I just kind of think too with, I know we have our learning target templates and we can do combined templates if we want to. I almost look at this as a way where we can combine some of our learning targets into one, where we could have that literacy section to it. We could have that math and that SEL, and it could cover kind of everything that we're working on into one Google Slides. Pear Deck presentation is a component of what we're doing. So it could be a cool way to combine a bunch of things that we're already working on.
All right, well, thank you. Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you so much, Charlie, for sharing your expertise with us. Charlie will be back at 2 p.m. So encourage other colleagues or friends to join in. And then I did drop the Google sign-in form into the chat. I am just gonna drop these into the chat instead of sending an email. I don't wanna bombard people with emails. So just, if you're here, grab the link right now. If you miss it somehow, just email me and I'll send it to you, but that's how we'll do it. So thanks everybody. Thanks, Charlie.
No problem, thanks.